Hello class, welcome back. So one little issue that was pointed out to me by a couple of people that I forgot to address is that say we're logged in as John, as we are right now, and I click on boss, I see messages, same thing, I click on Jane, I see messages, everything goes fine. I log out, the token is deleted behind the scenes. But if I do log in, let's say as boss, so I type boss's password, I log in, I still see Jane and boss, which is wrong, and I still see those messages. But bear in mind, these messages are not fetched in real time. Everything is cached here. So why is this happening and how do we fix it? So if we go back to our code base and go to the client source and into the Apollo provider, the reason is this block right here. So each time you start the app from the ground up, it gets the token from the storage and then it uses that. But the problem with this is that if you do actually change the token, you need to kind of load this part again. So a simple fix for this, which would be to go to the home page. So home, and here where we log out, after we dispatch the action, which deletes the token, instead of navigating with the router, we can simply just set the href of the page. So we can say window.location.href equals, and we set it to /login, and let's save that. Let the app build again. And now what this will do, so now if I click logout, you notice it reloaded here because it actually loaded the app from the ground up. So now if, let's say I log in as Jane, 1 through 6, there we go. I see John and boss. And again, if I log out, it reloads the entire app and it fetches the new token. So now if I log in as John, it should show me boss and Jane, and it actually does. All right, so that's fixed. While I was offline, I did add a couple of messages here between John and Jane, so that later when we style the messages and I start to test, I have like the perfect setup for testing. I've updated the seeder. So if you go to the seeder, you'll see that I added those messages, and you can add messages yourself on the playground as well. Both work the same. So let's actually start to style these messages because right now they're just, the content of the message. So let's head to the messages component, and here I'm actually going to create a message for a message component for a single message, which will come in useful later. So here inside of the home, we'll say new file message.js, and here in messages where we loop through them, we can simply cut this line and return a message component, and this needs the key. And the key would be the message.uuid, and we'll pass the entire message object to this message component and use it in there to display all the different properties of the message. So if we go to the message component here, we type rfc tab, and here let's paste what we cut for now. And instead, now I want to improve this. Obviously, I want to add a couple of things to this message object, and I want to make it look like Messenger, where it's kind of like a bubble, like a blue bubble if it's yours, and so on. So here I'm gonna wrap this in a div, and this div will have a couple of classes actually. And the first class will be we need to give it some padding. We want it to kind of like have space between the message and the edges of this bubble. So we'll give it on the top and bottom, so py 2, and then on the left and right we give it 3, so px3. And I'm going to give it the class of rounded pill, which makes it rounded on the edges, kind of like a circle, but not a full circle. And that should be it. Close that div, paste that. And actually I want to add as well another class here of bg primary to give it this blue background, and let's save that. And here we need to import this message component. So here at the top we'll say import message from the same directory message, like this, and let's save. Message is not defined. Okay, I forgot to destructure it from the props. So here let's do message like this, and let's go back and we select friend. Then there we go. We get this blue bubble, and obviously it's too wide, so we need to fix that, and we need to put space between them. And this text needs to be white for it to contrast better with blue. So here I'm gonna wrap all of this in another div so that it doesn't take up the whole width. And this div will have a class name of let's give it a display of flex, the flex, And let's give it some margin on the top of and bottom of 3, so my3, and that should be it for now. And here I'll cut this and paste it here, and then this text, we can give it the class name of text white and save, and let's see what that looks like. All right, so that looks much better. But what we need to do is our messages, which would be this one, for example, and then this one, needs to be pushed to the right, and then the messages that we have received need to be on the left, like in any texting app. So the way we can do this, we need to find out whether this message was sent or received by us. So I'm gonna put this in its own variable here at the top. So I'll say const sent equals, and we can actually, to get our own username, we need to compare our own username to this message from username. That way we can know whether it was from us or to us. So here we need to get the user from the auth context first. So we'll say const user equals use auth state, like this, which imports the use auth state hook for us. And here the sent will simply be message.from. So the condition will be if the message.from equals the user.username, and this is the equivalent of doing a ternary like this. So if that's true, it's true, otherwise it's false. We can remove that, it's already implied. And I'm gonna need another property of received, which I'll show you why we need it later. So I'll say const received, so whether we received this message or not, and this will simply be not sent. And here I need to use these to determine which class to give to these elements here. Okay, so here I'll say import class names from class names. Oh, actually all lowercase. So we need to use class names to determine whether to give it BG primary, because if it's not our message, we want to give it a different, like, gray background, because it's not our message. So here I'm gonna cut this up to rounded pill, and I'm gonna remove this for now. I'm gonna open an expression and say class names, and you've seen this already. So I'm gonna paste that as the first argument to class names. So this is not conditional. This should always be there. And now I'm gonna have an object here, which will have the BG primary, and it needs to have a BG primary if it's our message. So the condition will be sent. And if it was received, so I'm gonna repeat this one more time, it's gonna have a BG secondary like this, and this will be received like this. And let's see if that's working already. All right, it is, but the message needs to be not text white if it's BG secondary, and that's simple. So this text white, you can as well use class names here. We'll say equals class names, and this will already have an object, and I'm gonna paste this text white, and the condition is sent. Let's save and click on boss. All right, and here we see that if it's gray, it has a black text, and if it's blue, it has white text. Cool. So let's push these messages to the side, our messages to the right. So I'm gonna use the ML auto and MR auto, which give like the margin right, margin left of auto classes. So I'm gonna apply that to the outer div. So here, actually I'm gonna use class names here as well. So let's cut this and then say class names and open parentheses and paste that back in, and then open an object here, and I'll have the ML auto like this, and the condition will be sent. I'm going to duplicate it and change this to MR auto, and this will be received, and let's save. And okay, it hasn't taken place, and that's because maybe it hasn't built yet. I'm gonna refresh. No, let me double check. Oh, okay, I need to give I gave the class to the wrong div. No, actually I give it to the correct div. It's the outer div. Huh. Oh, it's because these, for some reason, oh yeah, these are taken full width because the containing column, yeah, it's a column, so they take the full width. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the class of display of flex to this column and make them go as a column, like flex column. So Here, let's go to the, actually I closed it. So to the home, oh, sorry, not the home, the messages. And here, where we loop through our messages, actually, where is that? Yeah, it's contained inside of this column. And here I'll just add a class name of d-flex and flex. Well, actually, this reminds me of another problem that we have to fix, which is this div that contains the messages. It has a variable height, which is not the desired effect that I wanted. So if you don't have enough messages, it's gonna become smaller. So actually, before I do that, I'm gonna give it a like a class to target it from the Sass with, and I'm gonna call this messages box, and I'm gonna go where am I going? So yeah, to the Sass. So the app.scss, and here I'll say dot messages box, and I'll give this a fixed height of 500 pixels, and I'll also give it overflow y of scroll, so that if we have like a lot of messages, it doesn't actually they don't actually overflow. We can scroll through this div. So let me make sure that, yeah, save that, and let's go back. And now it's like it's a fixed height, and even if we have one message, we still see the div is like this big. If we go here, there we go. We can scroll through the messages, but of course they're in reverse order, and there's a simple fix for that. Let's go to, yeah, here in messages. In that column, I'm gonna add the display flex, and also add flex column reverse, which will actually make this a column, but the order is reversed. So if I go to boss here, or actually to Jane, you can see, actually, if you go to this, to the elements, you see this is the div, but the first element is at the bottom, and the bottom element is at the top. So it's kind of reversed. It starts from the top. It starts from the bottom and it goes to the top. So the order is now solid, but there's a little problem here, which is the margin of this div here. So this last one, the margin is being collapsed with the parent of this, which is an interesting effect that happens in CSS. You can read about this in this article that explains it. It confused me at the beginning, but where is it? There's an article. Yeah, this one. Everything you need to know about CSS margins. I'll put a link of this in the description that explains to you why this problem is happening. And there's a little workaround that I can do here. So when we loop through the messages, we can simply, let's take the index, and I'll wrap this in a fragment, in a React dot, or actually I could just use fragment and import it. Fragment, and put that there. But I'll do a check, and I'll say, so in curly braces, if the index equals, messages dot length -1, which means if we are at the last element, then I'm going to add this invisible separator. So I'm going to add a div with the class of invisible, which is a bootstrap class. I don't know why I cut it early. Invisible tab, and inside of here I'll put a horizontal ruler and give it like any margin, which will make it have that space. This is all invisible, but it's actually gonna let that margin apply. So I'm gonna need to import fragment from React. So here, let's add fragment and save, and this should fix it. And it does. So we get our margin at the top right there. So if you click on this div, now that margin actually applies and it doesn't collapse with the margin of the parent. All right, so our messages are fixed. One thing that I want to do, I want to hide this scroll bar. So you can style it, you can do whatever, but for me, I'm just going to hide it. So let's go to the app CSS, and here we can do, so we're targeting this messages box. So messages box, and use the pseudo class dash webkit dash scroll bar. And here I'll give it a display of none. None like this. Actually, this is Sass, so we can just do this. I'll cut this, and inside of here we nest it and say and paste that in. And I'll also add a property of scroll bar width of not zero, actually none. And this will actually remove it in Firefox and Edge and the other browsers. So let's save. And let's reload. There we go. So we can scroll through the div, but we don't see the scroll bar. If you want to have that UI feedback, like I said, you can start it, but for me, I just want to get rid of it, which it makes the app look way cleaner. So one thing that I want to do that is very similar to Facebook Messenger is when we hover over the not the images, the comments, sorry, not the comments, the messages, we get like a tooltip on the side that shows when this message was sent. So that's simple. We can use React Bootstrap's tooltips, which are Bootstrap's tooltips. And if you go to React Bootstrap components, go down here, tooltips. And I'm just gonna drag one of the examples. So yeah, I wanna have this style, but this is not, this is a popover. Actually, I'm looking for tooltip. Where's tooltip? Yeah, right here. So this thing right here. I don't like the example they use because they loop through an array and then it changes like a little bit of the syntax. I'm gonna copy this overlay trigger tag or like a block, and let's go to message.js. We need to wrap our entire message in that, so I'm just gonna paste it at the top here. I'm gonna change a couple of things here. The placement, it doesn't need a key because I'm not looping through an array, and the placement is not the variable. Actually, the placement is going to be, if it's a received message, it's going to be on the left. And if it's going to be, if it's our message, a sent message, it's going to be on the right. So we can do a condition and say if sent, then right, else it's left. And that should take care of that. We don't need an ID here. And the tooltip should put the date, the timestamp that the message was sent in. And this would be the time for me to install moment. So in the client directory, let's run npm install moment, which is a library that helps us like format dates and subtract and do all kinds of operations on dates. I'll import it here at the top, import moment from moment. And let's go back inside the tooltip and I'll open curly braces and say moment. And remember we have the created at, so we'll pass it the created at, so message.created at. And we're going to use format, so dot format. And I'm going to pass it just a normal like format with like the name of the month and the day. So we're going to do quadruple uppercase M and DD uppercase and comma space Y 4 times. And I'm going to do an at, meaning like at this time. And I'll do H for single digit hour time, and colon MM and A. And you can find all these formats on the Moment website, by the way. I'm not making this up from my head, just something that I've copied from there. So that should be fine. There shouldn't be any errors, and there is one. Passing adjacent. Oh yeah, what am I doing? I pasted this overlay trigger, but we need to put the whole div inside of it. So let's cut our entire message div, and instead of this button as the child of this overlay trigger, we need to paste our div inside of there. And I actually forgot to import these from React Bootstrap. So let's go here at the top, import the overlay trigger and also the tooltip from React Bootstrap, save, and let's head back to our app. All right, so we get our messages and we hover over them. We do get this this date as a tooltip to show us when this message was actually sent or received. That's sorted. There's one little issue with these tooltips. For some reason, each time I hover over one of them, we get these. Actually, that's another issue for responsive design, but I'll just ignore it for now. We get these like find node errors because of React strict mode. We can reduce the number of them by just removing the transition, which is like a simple fix that I found. I don't think there's a solution for this. If there is, like, please do comment and let me know what is the solution for this. You can add transition false, which makes this error only appear once. Actually, it's still appearing twice. Oh, actually, this is a different error for the... We need to give a key to... Is it to our messages? Yeah, actually, the key now needs to be moved to the fragment because that's the topmost component. All right. Yeah, so we still get this error, but it's only like once instead of like each time we hover over a tooltip. So yeah, if you find a solution for this, please let me know so other people can actually implement it. But for now, I'm just gonna ignore it. It's just like this client-side warning. Actually, one little improvement I want to make for our chat app is the responsiveness is not that good. So if we change the width of the window, it becomes a bit really like not nice looking, to put it like lightly. So, well, a couple of like little solutions that we can do. We can make this section way smaller when we go on, let's say, what is this, medium? Yeah, here in the medium, we can make this text and name of the person disappear and just leave the avatar, like the image. So let's go back here. Let's go to the users component. Here in the users, actually, I'm gonna remove this inline styling and move this to the Sass. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut those styles, remove this style prop, and also remove the rounded circle. I'm gonna write that in the Sass. And I'll give this a class of, what is it, user image or image profile, or let's call it user image. And let's go to the app Sass. And here I'll say .user -image and paste what we copied. And click here and then hold Alt and click here, add pixel to these. Select the comma and Control D, change that to the semicolon. And this needs to be now dotted like this, kebab cased or whatever. Remove this and let's add a border radius to simulate the rounded circle. So border radius of 50% and the semicolon. Save everything. Now our app should be exactly the same. Cool. So I want to remove, like I said, this section. And the way we can do this, we can use actually some cool responsive Bootstrap class name helpers. And these will be the display none. But I'm going to give this a display of none by default. So by default, it will be display of none. But starting from the medium size screen, it will be displayed. So we'll say display MD block. And this will give it this effect. Where if we go to the medium screens, you'll see that text, and then if we go to small or like or less than that, you don't see it anymore. You just see the image. And we're gonna make this a bit thinner as well. So let's actually implement what I added. So that was on the div that contains the name of the person and the message, the latest message. So that would be in the users, and it's this one right here. So let's give it the class name of display none. So d-none. And d-md-block. And we'll change this. So this column that contains the users, I'm going to change this, give it a width of 2 units out of 12 on the extra small to up to medium. And from medium and up, it will be 4. And now we need to change the values on messages. So on messages from medium and up will be 8. And from extra small and up will be 10, because that's what's remaining from 12 when you remove 2. So let's save everything and go back. And cool. So if we click on a person and we get the messages, and if we go to a smaller screen, the names disappear and the message disappears, and this becomes wider so we can see the messages. That's nice. I think there's a little issue here where the image is not centered, and yeah, that's because of this margin. So a really simple fix is to move this margin from the image to this section, or to this div here. So let's go to users, and right here, let's remove this mr-2 from the image and add to this div ml-2. So now this div will have the margin on the left, and then when it disappears, there's no more margin. But this is still not centered, and yeah, that's because it doesn't have like it's not justified to the middle. Like a simple fix for this would be, where are we? Yeah, here this user div, we can actually after the display of flex, we can just say justify content center, and that will center this image in the middle. Okay, now it's centering everything, including the text as well. So actually we can not center it from medium and up. And so we'll use, let me copy this. We'll add another class, justify content-md center. So starting, actually no, not center, start. So starting from the MD screen size, it's gonna, justify it to the start. All right, so that's justified to the start. And then when we go to medium, there we go. It's actually justified in the middle. If we double check, well, the classes are still there, but if you look at the CSS, you see that this one now is applying. Whereas when we go to medium screen, now it's this one applying, flex start. All right, so that's cool for small screens, but if we go to, if we go to really small, it still looks a bit not cool, but at least here, let's see. Yeah, on 400 it looks cool, so I'm okay with it for now. You can actually customize this a bit more and make it more responsive. I just wanted to give you the start of the thread for this. In the next video, we're gonna add an input field here and allow the users to actually type and send new messages to their friends. So look forward to that. I look forward to recording it. Again, please do like this video if you liked it. If you didn't like it, please post a comment, tell me why. I can change anything. I'm malleable as plastic. If you haven't yet, of course, subscribe and click the bell button. And until next time, thank you.